Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today as we explore a fascinating and oft misunderstood dynamic in relationships: the paradox of distance and desire. We've all experienced moments where our own actions, or those of someone we care about, seem to send messages louder than words. Sometimes, when we pull back, withdraw, or simply create more space for ourselves, we ignite a spark, a curiosity, or even an obsession in the other person. The nature of intrigue and desire, human emotions, are intricate and, at times, mysterious. When we suddenly give ourselves more space, it isn't a sign of weakness or disinterest. It's a deliberate act of self-respect and independence. In relationships, both romantic and otherwise, creating distance can be transformative. It reminds our partners, or anyone who admires us, that we are complete individuals deserving of attention and deep care. Empowering yourself by setting boundaries. When you pull back, you set clear boundaries and signal that your time and emotions are valuable. This self-assurance, in turn, makes you more desirable. It evokes a sense of challenge and nostalgia, the thrill of the chase, which can lead the other person to ponder your absence and wonder what it is they might be missing out on. At the heart of the pull-back dynamic lies the powerful truth that your worth is not tied to someone else's constant attention, validation, or approval. Your intrinsic value is something that exists independently. It is not earned by giving more of yourself or by being perpetually available. Instead, it shines brightest when you recognize that your time, your energy, and your presence are precious commodities. When you choose to pull back, you are not withdrawing to create anxiety or to punish. You are realigning the relationship dynamic in a way that honors your self-respect. Independence communicates a silent but potent message. I am complete on my own. I do not need you to feel whole, but I may choose to share my world with you. That choice, not a necessity, creates an aura of strength and quiet magnetism. Society often glorifies relentless availability and self-sacrifice in relationships, especially for those seeking to prove their devotion. However, the reality is that constantly being accessible can sometimes diminish your perceived value in the eyes of another. It can create a sense of emotional saturation, where your presence, though once treasured, becomes taken for granted. True independence disrupts this pattern. It demands attention without a single word being spoken because it embodies confidence and assurance, two traits that naturally command respect and admiration. Independence fosters mystery, the sense that you have a rich inner world full of dreams, goals, and experiences that do not revolve solely around the other person. This internal richness becomes deeply attractive because it signals that you bring not just love or affection into a relationship, but a vibrant, evolving life of your own. It is this sense of an independent journey that invites curiosity, admiration, and even a touch of awe from someone who realizes they cannot easily predict or control you. Moreover, independence is empowering on a personal level. It allows you to navigate relationships from a position of strength rather than fear or insecurity. You are no longer grasping for reassurance or bending to fit into another's expectations. Instead, you are standing firm in your own light, and paradoxically, it is this very light that draws others irresistibly toward you. People are naturally more drawn to what they feel they must earn rather than what is freely and endlessly given. When you live in this way, anchored in your self-worth, you stop chasing connections. You let them come to you. You begin to see that the right person will not be deterred by your independence. Rather, they will be enchanted by it. They will recognize the value of someone who is not easily swayed by temporary emotions, but who remain steadfast in their authenticity. Therefore, by pulling back, you are not losing anyone, you are filtering. You are allowing only those who truly recognize your worth to step closer. You are teaching others that your love, your attention, and your energy are privileges to be cherished, not entitlements to be exploited. Intrigue is the lifeblood of attraction. It is the invisible thread that pulls one person toward another with an irresistible force, sparking curiosity, imagination, and emotional investment. When you pull back, whether intentionally or naturally as you focus on your own life, you create a space where intrigue has the chance to flourish. People are wired to crave what they don't fully understand or what feels just slightly out of reach. When someone is completely available at all times, when every thought, emotion, and action is immediately shared, the mystery that once fueled the early stages of attraction can begin to dissipate. Predictability replaces excitement. Certainty replaces wonder. And slowly, sometimes without either person realizing, the emotional voltage drops. But when you step back, when you resist the urge to constantly update, reassure, or explain yourself, you reignite that sense of wonder. You leave gaps that invite the other person's mind to wander. What are they thinking? Why haven't they called yet? Or are they busy? Are they happy without me? These questions create emotional engagement because they introduce a sense of unpredictability. And unpredictability is the fuel for emotional fascination. Creating intrigue is not about being deceptive or manipulative. It's about being selective with your access. It's about showing that your attention must be earned, not simply expected. When someone realizes they do not have full, unquestioned access to you at all times, they begin to crave the parts of you that feel hidden, sacred, or reserved only for those who truly deserve it. Moreover, pulling back gives the other person a chance to miss you. In a world that moves at lightning speed, where messages can be sent instantly, where social media allows near constant updates, true absence becomes a rarity. And in that rarity, real longing is born. They begin to fill the silence with their own thoughts of you, their own imagined versions of what you might be doing or feeling. In doing so, they become active participants in building their own emotional attachment to you, rather than passive recipients of your constant presence. This process also shifts the emotional dynamic. Instead of you chasing their attention, they find themselves chasing your approval, your time, and your affection. Instead of you wondering where you stand, they are left wondering how to capture more of your attention. That shift is subtle but profound, and it often happens naturally when you are more invested in your own growth and happiness than in constantly maintaining someone else's comfort. By creating intrigue, you protect the sacred energy between two people from growing stale. You maintain a freshness in the connection, a sense that there is always more to discover about you, more layers to peel back, more reasons to stay curious. And in the realm of human relationships, curiosity is often the first bridge to desire. Therefore, by pulling back strategically, you breathe life into the relationship. You replace familiarity with fascination. You transform the bond from something easily defined and contained into something that feels alive, evolving, and compelling. And it all starts with the courage to let there be some distance, some unanswered questions, and some moments of beautiful mystery. Scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human behavior. It taps into our deepest instincts, the fear of loss, the desire to attain what is rare, and the innate tendency to value things more when they are not easily available. In relationships, the same principle applies when your presence, attention, and emotional availability are perceived as scarce, their perceived value skyrockets. When you are always available, always responding immediately, and always giving without limit, your presence can become something expected rather than cherished. Humans tend to overlook what is constantly within reach. It's not a reflection of anyone being unkind or ungrateful. It's simply how the human mind is wired. Familiarity can dull appreciation. But when something becomes rare, when it carries the possibility of slipping away or being inaccessible, it suddenly commands focus, longing, and deep emotional response. Pulling back introduces scarcity into the emotional environment. Your absence creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum, the other person starts to realize what they stand to lose. They start to appreciate the richness of your energy, the warmth of your conversation, the joy of your presence in a way that was easy to take for granted when you were always there. Scarcity shocks the system awake. It turns the ordinary into something precious. Think about how scarcity works in every other part of life. A limited edition item becomes more desirable simply because it's rare. An opportunity that is available only for a short time feels more urgent and valuable. In the same way, when your emotional energy isn't something endlessly poured into another person without boundaries, it becomes something they long for, strive for, and appreciate more deeply. Importantly, this does not mean playing games or manipulating someone through artificial scarcity. Authentic scarcity comes from genuinely prioritizing your life, your passions, and your personal well-being over constant availability. It's about recognizing that you have a full, vibrant existence outside of any relationship and protecting that existence fiercely. It's about giving your energy intentionally, not habitually. Scarcity also helps separate those who are truly invested from those who are merely convenient. When access to you is no longer guaranteed, those who are serious will step forward with real effort. They will seek to understand you, to connect with you on a deeper level, and to earn your trust and attention. Meanwhile, those who are only half invested will drift away, and that is a blessing, not a loss. This natural filtration process ensures that the relationships you nurture are rooted in genuine appreciation and respect, not convenience or entitlement. It empowers you to attract people who value your essence, not just your availability. Scarcity reminds others that your time, your love, and your attention are privileges, not rights. And when something is seen as a privilege, it is treated with much greater care, reverence, and loyalty. You teach people how to treat you not through words, but through the subtle and powerful art of making your energy something rare, precious, and undeniably worth chasing. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are bridges that allow connection to happen safely, respectfully, and meaningfully. Setting healthy boundaries is one of the greatest acts of self-love and self-respect you can perform. It is through boundaries that you protect your energy, your mental clarity, and your emotional well-being. In relationships, especially romantic ones, boundaries are not only necessary, they are magnetic. They show that you know your value and that you refuse to compromise it for the fleeting comfort of constant approval. When you pull back and create space, you are, in effect, reinforcing your boundaries. You are saying, through action rather than words, that you will not abandon yourself to accommodate someone else. You are signaling that your happiness is not something you outsource to another person's mood, actions, or attention. This quiet strength is deeply attractive because it shows maturity, confidence, and an inner core that cannot be easily shaken. Healthy boundaries do not come from bitterness, fear, or anger. They come from a place of deep personal responsibility. They say, I am responsible for my own emotional state, and I expect you to be responsible for yours. They prevent the draining cycles of overgiving, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Without boundaries, you risk losing yourself in a relationship, making your worth dependent on how much you can please, fix, or save someone else. But with strong boundaries, you stand firmly in your power, allowing love to flow from a place of abundance rather than desperation. Moreover, boundaries create a sense of challenge, not in a hostile or antagonistic way, but in a way that makes a person realize they must rise to meet you. They must approach with respect, patience, and a willingness to truly understand who you are. They cannot simply demand your attention or expect your emotional labor without reciprocation. They must earn it through consistency, care, and real effort. When someone sees that you honor your own limits, it invites them to honor you too. It sets a standard. It makes clear that being in your life is a privilege, not an entitlement. It teaches them that your world is not a place where chaos or disrespect can thrive. It is a sanctuary of mutual respect, trust, and personal freedom. Pulling back when necessary is not about withdrawal or punishment. It's about protecting the sacred space where you nurture your dreams, your passions, and your sense of peace. It's about ensuring that you never lose sight of your own goals in the pursuit of someone else's affection. It's about valuing yourself so deeply that you refuse to be pulled into emotional dynamics that diminish your light. In doing so, you create an atmosphere where the right people, those who are healthy, mature, and emotionally available, will not be intimidated by your boundaries. They will be drawn to them. They will appreciate the clarity you provide. They will see that loving you means respecting you, and that in respecting you, they find a deeper, more enduring connection. Human psychology is profoundly influenced by what is absent, what is uncertain, and what is not easily obtained. When you pull back, whether by becoming less available, focusing more on yourself, or simply not responding with the same immediacy, you create a ripple effect in the other person's mind. This shift taps into some of the deepest psychological patterns that govern attachment, desire, and emotional investment. When someone suddenly feels a change in access to you, it triggers a reaction known as cognitive dissonance. This is the mental discomfort that arises when there is a gap between what someone expects and what they experience. If they have become accustomed to constant attention, quick responses, and emotional availability, the sudden reduction of those things creates a noticeable void. That void forces the mind to work overtime trying to understand and resolve the imbalance. The result, you occupy more of their mental and emotional space than ever before. This is not about playing with someone's emotions. It's about understanding how natural human psychology works. People often don't fully recognize or appreciate what they have until they are at risk of losing it, or until it becomes less certain. The mind starts to replay conversations, to analyze every interaction, to wonder what changed. They may even begin to romanticize you more, remembering the best parts of your connection and elevating them in their imagination. This process, entirely driven by their own thoughts, makes you not just someone they liked, but someone they can't stop thinking about. Additionally, pulling back often triggers a very primal reaction known as the pursuit instinct. When something we desire starts moving away from us, our natural inclination is to chase it. It's the same basic instinct that drives us to pursue goals that seem just out of reach, or to value objects and experiences that are rare. In relationships, the person who maintains a certain level of emotional independence naturally inspires this pursuit instinct. Rather than chasing after someone's affection, you become the prize. The person whose attention is valued because it must be earned, not taken for granted. Another important psychological effect is the contrast principle. When you are fully present and responsive, and then you are less available, the stark contrast makes the absence feel even larger. It's not that you are being unkind or cold. It's that the difference between then and now creates emotional intensity. It stirs longing. It forces the other person to recognize the emotional gap left behind. This contrast heightens the emotions tied to you, making every interaction, every memory, and every thought about you more vivid and emotionally charged. Moreover, the psychological impact is intensified by the simple truth that people value what they invest effort into. If they find themselves thinking about you more, wondering what you're doing, and strategizing about how to get closer again, they are investing mental and emotional energy into you. This investment deepens their attachment, often without them even realizing it. By pulling back, you encourage the other person to engage more deeply with their own feelings. You give them the space to question, to desire, and to act, not because you begged for it, but because their own mind propelled them toward it. This natural and self-motivated attraction is infinitely more powerful than anything that could be forced or demanded. Mystery has always been one of the greatest catalysts for attraction. It is that sense of the unknown, the unspoken depth, the unseen layers of a person that captivates the imagination and draws someone in closer again and again. When you consciously or naturally pull back from someone, you are allowing the essence of mystery and unpredictability to re-enter the relationship, and that energy is powerful. In a world where instant communication, constant updates, and social media oversharing have become the norm, true mystery is rare and deeply magnetic. When you are not always available, not always posting, texting, or explaining your every move, you leave room for curiosity to grow. You allow the other person to wonder about you, to imagine where you are, what you are doing, and who you are becoming in your own private space. That wondering becomes a bridge that keeps their emotional interest alive. Predictability can often become the silent killer of excitement. When someone can predict every move you'll make, every text you'll send, and every way you'll respond, the mind stops feeling challenged. The excitement dulls. But when you maintain a sense of unpredictability, not by playing games, but by living your life authentically without feeling the need to constantly narrate it, you keep their attention active. You keep their mind dancing around thoughts of you, always curious, always guessing, always feeling like there is more of you left to discover. This unpredictability also prevents emotional complacency. It keeps the emotional air between you charged and dynamic, rather than static and stale. Every interaction feels a little more significant because it's not something they can take for granted. Every text, every meeting, every glance carries more weight because it's not guaranteed or routine. You become someone who adds excitement and a touch of adventure to their life, someone who can't be fully captured or contained, and that makes you irresistible. Maintaining mystery doesn't mean being distant or secretive in a way that breeds insecurity. It means preserving parts of yourself that are sacred, parts that are not for public consumption or constant sharing. It means having passions, dreams, friendships, and ambitions that exist independently of any relationship. It's about being an entire world unto yourself, inviting others to explore it, but never handing over the map completely. Additionally, unpredictability stirs up emotional investment by forcing the other person to stay engaged. They cannot assume you will always be there, always available, always waiting. They must put in effort. They must think about how to keep your attention. They must remain active participants in the connection. This mutual engagement keeps the relationship alive, with both sides contributing energy rather than falling into passivity. When you are a little unpredictable, not chaotic, but delightfully spontaneous, you also create memories that are emotionally vivid. Unexpected texts, surprise moments of connection, or even brief disappearances to focus on your own growth all contribute to an emotional landscape that feels alive, textured, and unforgettable. People do not form deep attachments to what is overly familiar and predictable. They form deep attachments to what challenges them, excites them, and makes them feel a wide range of emotions. By maintaining mystery and unpredictability, you hold on to your most powerful advantage in any emotional connection, the ability to inspire continual curiosity and longing. You become a story they want to keep reading, a puzzle they feel compelled to solve, and a person they realize they can never fully figure out, and therefore can never quite get enough of. One of the most transformative forces in both your personal life and your relationships is the simple but profound act of turning your focus inward. When you pull back from constantly trying to nurture, control, or chase a connection, and instead pour that energy into yourself, your growth, your passions, your dreams, you naturally become more magnetic without even trying. The power of self-focus is undeniable because it radiates authenticity, strength, and purpose. When you are fully engaged with your own life, you exude an energy that is vibrant and self-sufficient. People are instinctively drawn to those who seem fulfilled, passionate, and in motion towards something greater than themselves. It creates a gravitational pull, a kind of invisible attraction that no amount of external effort can manufacture. You are not chasing attention, you are living with intention. And that distinction is powerful. Self-focus doesn't mean selfishness. It means understanding that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. It means realizing that you are not here just to fill someone else's emotional voids or to be the backdrop of someone else's story. You are here to build your own legacy, to explore your own depths, and to create a life so rich and meaningful that anyone lucky enough to be part of it feels honored to be included. When you prioritize your goals, your health, your happiness, and your self-development, you communicate something profound without ever needing to say a word. I am whole. I am evolving. I am not standing still waiting for someone to complete me. This message, sent through your actions and your energy, challenges and inspires others to step up, to match your growth, or risk being left behind. Self-focus also shifts your emotional center of gravity. Instead of being overly influenced by how someone else acts, feels, or treats you, you become anchored in your own purpose and values. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do they align with the life I'm building? That shift changes everything. It removes the desperate energy that repels and replaces it with a grounded, self-assured presence that attracts. Furthermore, when you are deeply engaged in your own passions and pursuits, you become more interesting. You have stories to tell, experiences to share, wisdom to offer. You are not just waiting for someone else to bring meaning into your life. You are creating meaning every single day. And in doing so, you become the kind of person who is not only desired, but deeply respected. The irony is that the more you focus on your own journey, the more you pull others toward you. People want to be around those who are alive, who are lit up from within, who have a direction and a destiny they are pursuing. They sense that being close to you means being close to growth, adventure, and emotional richness. They realize that if they want to be part of your life, they must bring value, energy, and integrity to the table because you are not someone who will settle for less. In focusing on yourself, you also naturally cultivate high standards. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You become selective about who you allow into your inner world because you know what you are building is precious. And those high standards, far from pushing people away, actually inspire those who are truly serious to work harder, love better, and appreciate more deeply. The power of self-focus is not just about attracting others. It's about transforming yourself into the kind of person who doesn't need to chase anyone. Your fulfillment comes from within. Your happiness is self-generated. Your love is abundant, but it is not desperate. You love because you choose to, not because you must. And that, above all, is what makes you unforgettable. Emotional distance, when applied intentionally and with self-awareness, has the incredible ability to create an emotional gravitational pull between two people. It's a phenomenon rooted deep in the psychology of human attachment. What we can't easily have often becomes what we desire most. When you step back, when you allow space to grow between yourself and another person, you aren't pushing them away. You are pulling them toward you through the natural laws of emotional physics. Imagine for a moment how gravity works in the universe. Massive objects exert a gravitational force that draws other objects toward them. The larger and denser the object, the stronger its pull. In relationships, emotional distance works similarly. When you are emotionally centered, self-possessed, and not constantly seeking or chasing validation from others, you become denser. In the emotional sense, you become fuller within yourself. And with that fullness comes a natural gravitational pull that others feel, sometimes without even consciously understanding why. When you don't immediately respond to every text, when you don't over-explain your actions, when you are content in your own company, you send a message that you are not emotionally dependent on another person's attention for your sense of worth. That confidence, that independence, creates a mystery and depth that pulls others in. They find themselves thinking about you more, missing your presence, wondering about your inner world. They feel the space between you, and instead of being comfortable in that space, they feel an urge to close it. Emotional distance allows desire to grow in a way that constant presence simply cannot. Constant availability can, over time, dull excitement. It can make even the most beautiful connection feel commonplace. But when you create intentional space, when your presence is not something they can simply assume will always be there, you awaken a deeper emotional current within them. You stir longing, reflection, and appreciation at a level that casual, everyday contact often cannot reach. Moreover, emotional distance challenges the other person to step into the relationship with more conscious effort. It's easy to take for granted someone who is always there, always giving. But when faced with the reality that your attention and affection are not infinite and automatic, they must ask themselves, what am I willing to do to keep this connection alive? How much do I value this person? That introspection leads to stronger, more intentional bonds. This gravitational effect is not about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding that true emotional intimacy requires a rhythm, an ebb and flow, a breathing in and breathing out. It's about recognizing that space can be just as powerful, if not more so, than constant closeness. It gives both people the chance to miss each other, to reflect on the value of the connection, and to come back together with renewed energy and deeper commitment. It's also important to understand that emotional distance, when used wisely, builds respect. It communicates that you are a person with boundaries, with self-respect, and with a rich, independent life. It shows that your heart is not something to be taken lightly, but something to be earned, nurtured, and cherished. Emotional gravity pulls people into your orbit not through desperation, but through dignity and self-possession. By embracing the power of emotional distance, you allow others the space to feel your absence, and in doing so, realize the magnitude of your presence. You give them the chance to move toward you freely without pressure, creating a bond that is chosen, not forced. And that is the kind of connection that lasts, the kind that is built not on fear of loss, but on the true recognition of your worth. In the end, remember, true connection thrives not through force, but through space, mystery, and self-respect. The more you center yourself, honor your boundaries, and prioritize your own growth, the more magnetic you naturally become. Pulling back is not about manipulation or fear. It's about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the energy you radiate, and trust in the idea that the right person will be drawn closer, not by constant pursuit, but by the irresistible force of your authentic, empowered presence. So stand tall, hold your light steady, and watch as those who are meant for you cannot help but be pulled deeper into your orbit, again and again and again.